Hello, everyone, and welcome. There's been a lot of changes in the last week, and I wanted to kind of circle around and discuss what to loot in Dark and Darker Volume 2. In the most recent patch, gear items have had a significant increase in sell value. I think this is part of the overall balancing to the adventure point system, and people discovered rather quickly that taking gear out of the dungeon was essentially punitive when you could take out treasure, because treasure had a higher sell value, and therefore, if you wanted to maximize your adventure points, you weren't killing people, you weren't picking up gear, you were only picking up sellable treasures. But Iron Mace has addressed this. Kills are worth more now, but more importantly, gear items have had a substantial increase in their overall value. And so, in a lot of cases, they are the superior item to be looting if you're looking for pure gold earned per run. And so, to revisit the first video in the series, if you haven't watched that, I'm going to include a link here. But essentially, we discuss what items make sense to loot and the basic calculation of gold value per slot occupied in our grid-based inventory system. So, if an item sells for 32 gold and it occupies 4 slots, that's essentially 8 gold per slot. And so, using this as the foundation for evaluating gear, we're going to make some general statements now about the new value of sellable gear and whether you should be picking it up in lieu of treasure and taking it out to sell to a vendor. So let's look at, for example, the Golden Crown. This is a 4-slot sellable treasure item. Going off the information here on the wiki link in the description below, we can see that a gold crown of gray value is worth 10, a gold crown of white value is worth 16, a gold crown of green value 32, blue 48, and so on. And we're going to be looking at this at a per slot value basis, right? So we can see here that the green crown, the third one here, is worth 32 gold, or it's 8 gold per slot, as the golden crown is a 4-slot item. That's going to become really important when we start evaluating it versus gear. Once again, the green crown is worth 32 gold to a vendor, or 8 gold per slot. Now let's evaluate some gear items. The stats on the gear won't matter. The vendors don't pay more for better rolled items, so let's assume it's all junk because they're going to pay us the same. Looking at a 4-slot item of gear, gloves as an example, these blue gloves will sell to any vendor for 32 gold, or 8 gold per slot. And this scaling is consistent across all multi-slot gear items. Let's just quickly break it down. A multi-slot green item is worth 5 gold per slot. A multi-slot blue gear item is worth 8 gold per slot. An epic quality multi-slot gear item is worth 12 gold per slot. So, practical advice time. If you are considering taking out of the dungeon any of these treasure items, they must be green quality or higher to be better than a piece of blue gear. Once again, ceremonial daggers through ancient scrolls have to be green to be better than a junk rolled blue gear item in terms of gold value to the vendor. Fortunately, this also scales as we start evaluating blue treasure items against epic quality junk gear. They are equivalent in value. So, these items must be of blue quality to be better than an epic quality item. And this holds true for all multi-slot treasure items when compared to gear. Now let's talk about some exceptions to those rules. The 1-slot treasure items, I'm mostly talking about gems and bangles, bracelets, necklaces, platters, etc. These items scale very strangely relative to other treasure items. You will see from this chart that once they hit green or blue quality, they really spike in value. So here's our second recommendation. When you get a blue quality 1-slot treasure item, it's pretty much always going to be better to take it out opposed to a gear item of epic quality. So with all of the math and the scaling set aside for a moment, let's talk about the new rules of engagement and how we compare and evaluate what is going to provide us the highest gold value upon extraction. Okay, so the first rule is that blue junk gear is greater than or equal to green treasure items. And this means that it is really profitable to take blue gear out. Second of all, epic junk items are equal to or greater than blue treasure items for the same number of slots. So generally speaking, extracting with a junk epic item is going to provide you more gold than, for example, a bunch of green treasure items. And the third rule is that one slot treasure items break these rules. The scaling on them is so good after green. If you have a green or blue or epic quality single slot treasure item, they need to be prioritized over everything else. Something also to point out is that it looks like Iron Mace overlooked the lantern values. Lanterns used to be one of the most desirable items to take out of the dungeon because they had really good scaling with rarity. This is no longer the case. They got overlooked in the last value pass through that Iron Mace did on items, and lanterns are no longer worth looting, at least at the time of this recording. They no longer scale very well in comparison to just other items of the same quality. So, for example, a green pair of gloves at 5 gold per inventory slot is going to be worth more than a green lantern. So, basically, ignore lanterns for the purposes of these evaluations. And guys, I know there's a lot that's been changing in the game, particularly over the last week and a half. And it's difficult to keep all of this straight, but hopefully I've laid out for you today some very simple rules to understand what you should be looting and why out of the dungeon if you're looking to maximize your gold per run. This also scales with adventure points, so if you're interested in scaling adventure points, these follow the same rules. It's based on gold value. And hopefully you've learned something today. These rules are pretty easy to implement, pretty easy to follow. If you've enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. It helps me a ton. But regardless, I wish you good luck in your runs to come.